Hey everybody, it's Shark Scrapper. Some of you will recall that I recently had a very nice load of computers come in, 1,250-ish kind of pounds of computers. So this presents a fun opportunity. Now you all know that my alter ego, Geek Shark, loves to do the math to understand if we're making money, how much money, what it's costing us, those kind of things. When you look at the stack of computers that we have here, we have a number of computers that are somewhat similar. So this presents a unique opportunity. I'm going to see if I can call out 10 relatively similar kind of computers, and that will give us the opportunity to do the math. All right, come on, let's dive in. Of course, the danger of doing an exercise like this is I may not like the answers. Oh, man. All right, let's see now. This is kind of what we're going for here. We have a Dell. It's a relatively modern Dell, so this is what we're going to go for. We're going to try to find 10 that are kind of like this. That one doesn't have a side on it. There's another HP. There we go. There's another one. All right, so there's 10. All kind of the same. It's kind of similar. And it's 174 pounds. What the plan is to go through a standard breakdown on each of these, the way I would normally break down and separate PCs. And then instead of just chucking them in the various containers that I would normally chuck them into, I'm going to keep everything set aside so that we can weigh out the various components the way they would get sold. And then we can run the numbers and see if we're just spinning our wheels here. All right, we have a small bin for the little metal bits. We've got this for RAM. It's blocking me from throwing the boards where I would normally throw them. I have bins over here for motherboards and steel and such. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Oh, excuse me. Now I'm going to take the power supplies out as I normally do because the prices of shred are starting to come down again, so it will very quickly be the case that that the power supplies are worth more as power supplies than they are as shred. Well, daggone it, there's a locking mechanism on this one, and it's not cooperating. So we're going to have to, that's going to, means it might take a little bit longer than what we would normally take, but we'll figure it out. And of course, I'm purposely not trying to set speed records here. The idea is, what would my normal working pace be? Because we're trying to get an accurate representation. wire. Where did I decide to put wire? Over here. Let's get you over here. You know what we're going to do for wire? I'm going to start throwing it down in the bucket that I normally throw it in, because I just realized that the bucket is empty. So there's no reason not to go ahead and use it. I should have remembered that the bucket was empty, so anyway. Now, you all know, because you have broken down enough of your own computers, that not every computer is going to be the same. Some take more time than others. We have a crooked arm here, so this is going to be an an I-series. Let's find out what kind of I-series. This is part of the regular process, so the time spent is what the time spent is. You are an i7-470. So we're going to set our I-series aside. Now, I know that some of you are new to this, so if you're wondering how to determine that, you look at the metal plate of the CPU, and you will see this designation here. In this one, it says I5-4570T. That's what you want to have to help identify it for selling it to BoardSword as part of their tested CPU program. Now, I have a special video just on I-series, so we will either link to that, or there'll be a link to it down in the description, how to sell I-series CPUs to boardsword.com. And what we'll do for running the calculations is we'll certainly look at what the values are as I-series, but we will also just say, all right, what if they were just pinless? Get the battery off of there. Now, the batteries have no value, so those are just going in the battery bin. I think I have found a place that will take the NiCads, so that's a good thing. So wouldn't you know it, I'm running this experiment on PCs that don't want to cooperate. That's just not fair. But it's part of the game. As you can see, these extenders are very useful. I have them on my Amazon affiliate shop if you're interested in getting them. I have them on the Amazon affiliate shop even if you're not interested in getting them. All right, green, small metal socket. And wire. And metal shell. Get that wire out of there while we're there. Oh, I didn't finish this up, did I? You can see I'm kind of messing with my routine, so I'm off a little bit. That's all right, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll get in the groove. In the groove. Sometimes these screws block this off, sometimes they don't. In this case, they don't. All right. CD board. Now, I'm not going to try to do a value on these little pieces of ribbon with the gold. I'm collecting those because I may play around with that. So it's part of my normal routine to cut that off, because I might play around with going after that gold sometime in the future. No brass spindle, so that just goes in with the rest of the shred. I'm going to put the small boards in here. We'll separate them after we get to it. Stuff flying everywhere. So try real hard to follow a normal process here, which means sometimes screws get lost, sometimes they don't. You picked up in there. Hey! Don't go anywhere. We can separate all of the motors and small boards and things after we finish this little drill. I don't think that's going to skew our numbers all that much. Come on, you. All right, number 2. I'm going to do this for all 10. I certainly don't expect you to watch me do all 10. So we're going to just do a couple of observations here and then move to the weights and measures. One of the things that I observed was that not a single one of these had the hard drive still in them, but this batch of PCs was interesting because there were a lot of loose hard drives in the stack of PCs. So I can only surmise that somebody opened them up and took the hard drives out for some reason. I don't know. But we can certainly look at what a typical hard drive value would be, because I recently did a ROI exercise on hard drives and their boards. So we've got that information readily available to throw into the mix here as well. Again, right now you're seeing this lot, for some reason, the latches were all jammed in the locked position. It made it really difficult for a few of these to get them open. Normally these would just pop right off. So I don't know what that was all about. Now the other thing that you may have noticed in the last one was there was no RAM. Typically there's at least one RAM stick, but none of these PCs had any RAM in them. We will go ahead and do this exercise devoid of RAM, but keep in mind that there's usually at least one gold-fingered ram stick. All right, now, what you see me dealing with here right now is a gold finger card, a slot processor card. In order to get your maximum value for these, you want to take off any heat sinks, any fans, and the metal bracket that you see me taking off right now. That's the way I'm going to price this out for maximum value. I was just showing you the little screws. Sometimes those little screw things are brass. In this case, they're not. Taking off the fan there, that's going to go in with the electric motor. So there's a clean gold finger card. Those of you that have done any number of PC scrap outs, you'll know right away how different, even very similar PC towers can be. You know, these towers had no RAM. Usually there's RAM. These towers, some of them had one slot card, many of them had no slot cards, and there's no hard drives in them. So, you know, it's kind of difficult sometimes to do these kind of comparisons because the towers can be so different. I track my numbers from a broader perspective. So instead of just doing 10, I actually keep track of my numbers for the year. So every month I'm looking at how I did, and that helps me to make sure that I am staying on the positive side of the equation. But for the purposes of this exercise, we're just trying to get a look at, you know, some typical values here. So you don't want to hold me to the pennies of, you know, what we're dealing with, because there's going to be a lot of nuances here. You know, ideally you'd want to have a sample size of, I don't know, 100, 200 PCs to run this math. But that would make for a very long video. All right, well, we are done. I didn't think that you wanted to sit there and watch me scrap out 10 PCs. They were all pretty much the same. So I spared you all that repetitiveness. Let's get down to the meat of the issue here. It took me an hour and 23 minutes. An hour 23 minutes. The shred that's left behind was 120 pounds. Let's go see what we got for the rest of it. We're going to go over to the postal scale for the other stuff because it's relatively lighter weight, and the postal scale will be more accurate with those lighter weights. All right, there we have our gold finger cards, clean gold finger cards, 0.46 pounds. Aluminum heat sinks, 5.74 pounds. Power supply units with no wire, 24.16. Small socket green motherboards, 12.02. Insulated copper wire number 2. Now I already tared out the blue bin. So 4.75 pounds insulated copper wire number 2. CD-ROM boards, 0.41 CD-ROM boards. Copper bearing motors, 2.78. I know it's hard to see it in there, but those are the brass spindles, 0.03. Okay, so just in case the CPUs do not pass the functional test, I want to know the weight of them so that we can look at what we would have gotten for them scrap value pinless CPUs. So as pinless CPUs, 0.58 pounds, 0.58 pounds. We will go and look up the value of each of these because these are i7 series of various grades. So there's going to be some pretty decent money there. This has been a very fun exercise, and I've enjoyed my time with you, but it's time for me to hand off to Geek Shark and let us go look at the numbers. Well, we're going to let him look at the numbers because that's what Geek Shark does. And he thinks he's the more popular one. Personally, I think people prefer the dirty, sweaty, hard-working Shark, but Geek Shark seems to think that everybody likes him. I'm not buying it. All right, Geek Shark, over to you. What do the numbers tell us? Well, of course they like me better. I'm the one that gives them real answers. You just break stuff. Okay, so we have a spreadsheet ready to go here. We have our items listed out. And we're going to go ahead and put in the weights that Dirty Shark came up with. For shred, we had 120 pounds. Clean gold finger cards, 0.46 pounds. Aluminum heat sinks, 5.74 pounds. Power supplies, no wire, 24.16 pounds. Motherboards, green, small socket, 12.02. Insulated copper wire number 2, 4.75. That's 4.75. CD-ROM boards, 0.41. Copper bearing motors, 2.78. Brass, 0.03. And CPUs for the weight for scrap value, 0.58. Now, most times when you go to a scrap yard, their scale is going to be in 1 pound increments, unless you go over the vehicle scale, which is going to be in 20 pound increments. But for the purposes of what we're doing here, you know, we'll do some rounding off once we get the numbers. All right, so shred. My yard right now is paying 9.85 cents a pound, and that's going to give us that times that $11.82. Let's go ahead and make those dollars. What do you say? And we're going to simplify our life, so we're going to copy that and we're going to paste it here as a function. So now it will repeat what I did here, so it'll, you know, multiply this cell by this cell, this cell by this cell. Clean gold finger card, no fan, no heat sink, no bracket, $5.40 a pound. And we can see that it does the math. We can check that real quick. If we click on it and look up here, we see it multiplied this one by this one. All right, aluminum heat sinks. Now, my yard pays me for aluminum heat sinks. They call it extruded. See, now some yards will actually have a category for aluminum heat sinks. My yard calls it extruded, and they're paying me $1.04 a pound right now. Power supply with no wire, 10 cents a pound. Small or metal socket green motherboard, 2.45. Insulated copper wire, number 2, $1.02 a pound. CD-ROM boards, $5.10 a pound. Copper bearing motors, 44 cents a pound. Clean brass, $2.40 a pound. And pinless CPU scrap value, $6.40 a pound. That would be sold to board sort. This would be sold to board sort. This would be sold to board sort. And this would be sold to board sort. Everything else would be sold to one or the other of my local yards. These are the best prices that I get for my local yards. So this is just to give you, just so you understand, for me, this is the way I sell these things out. So let's go ahead and look at what our total value was here. Let's go ahead and put a double bottom under that. Let's go here and go auto sum, and it's going to add up. Total value $64.08. So let's just, here we're going to put computer whole. We had 170 pounds, and my local yard is paying 18 cents a pound. So that would give me $30.60. You know, the point of the exercise was to say to ourselves, if we get these computers and we spend the time to break them down, is it really worth it to us? Well, we can see that what we got for value, what I would have gotten for value, $64.08. If I had just sold them without any kind of work whatsoever, I would have gotten $30.60. So that is a difference of that minus this. We made a profit. We made a profit of $33.48, or there's a difference there of $33.48. Now, time. If I could save time in a bottle, if I could save time in a computer. All right, so we're just going to go straight to, we had 1 hour and 23 minutes, so let's just round that off and call that 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours. So that gives us, as far as what we made, $1 per hour. So in this sense, we made $22.32 by taking the time to break them down over just taking them in. So, that's to me, that's worth it. That makes a lot of sense, earning $22 an hour. But what we didn't look at yet was the value of those I-series. That makes a huge difference here. So let's go take a look at that real quick. All right, so once again, we are at the Board Sort homepage. I've already logged in as Shark Scrapper. You can see across the top here, we've got the e-scrap prices. This is just a look at the prices. This is if you want to sell e-scrap. Here's the tested CPU prices if you just want to look them up. And then here's the place that we're going to go to because we're going to send tested CPUs to Board Sort. So we click on Send Tested CPUs. We get the drop down here. And I really like the way Chris has done this now. We don't have to go in by each individual CPU. We can go in by the family of the I-series CPU. Much more convenient. Thank you, Chris, for doing this. All right, so out of those 10, we had one i5 4000 series. So that's right here. i5 4000, that's $15. We had one of those. We had 1, 2, 3 i7 2600s. So i7 2000 series, 3 of those. We had 1, 2, 3 i7 3000 series. i7 3000, 3 of those. And 1, 2, 3 i7 4000 series. i7 4000 series, 3 of those. Once you get done entering all your quantities, you just go down here to the bottom. You tell them if you want to get PayPal or check. And I always go with check. I'm not in, that big hurry. The turnaround is pretty good. Then you go click to submit. And once we click to submit, we're going to get the invoice to sell this. You've got your name, you've got the time stamp, you've got a date after which the quote will no longer be valid. So you want to make sure you get it to Chris before this date here. This is really important, and if you're going to be late with this, contact Chris ahead of time. He may have you resubmit the quote, or he may extend it. The best thing to do is just get it there in time. You've got your username, the name that the check will be written out to, the email so they can contact you, the address that you're sending it to. Here's the list of items that you're sending. And so this is 10 of them, and we know we have 10 of them. Our payout will be $210 if they all work as tested. I'm good with this, so I will click agree and submit. And then we get this invoice. Now, you can wait for the email to show up from Chris that confirms this, or you can print out this. I like to print out 2 copies of it. That way I have one to put in the box. This is very, very, very important. You have to put either a copy of the email or a copy of the invoice in with whatever you're sending to BoardSort, so they know who to send the check to. You know, it's kind of a no-brainer, but you would be, Chris has told me that it surprises him how many times he will get boxes with no identification, who it's from, what the invoice number was, any of that kind of stuff. Very, very important that you put a copy of the invoice in there. Well, this changes things really nice for us, because if all of the CPUs work, then instead of the scrap value of $3.71, we're now getting $210. So that's a much better return on our investment. So I highly recommend that everybody look at what the CPUs are when you're breaking down your computers. And if you get an iSeries, pull it, set it aside, clean off the goop on the back of it, treat it very carefully, and sell it to Chris as a tested CPU, a functional CPU. The worst case is it doesn't pass test and you get the scrap value. Best case is you get paid pretty well for it. Well, I'm sure glad that worked out in our favor, because I would have hated to have done this math and figured out that I was wasting my time scrapping computers. But it is definitely worth our time to scrap these things down and sell off the components. And it's even better when we get iSeries CPUs and we can sell those as functional components. A big mahalo to everybody who has been donating to the Shark Scrapper Shark Adoption Project 2 for 22. There are multiple ways that you can donate. You can send me a good old-fashioned check to the address that's in my About page. That's what Nick Burns did, and that was a $500 check. Thank you, Nick, which I'll be matching if anybody wants to try to beat that, as well as JR a cat. Now, if you want to do a little more automated, you can do PayPal at paypal.me/Shark Scrapper. That's what Barry West has been doing. You can also become a patron through my Patreon page. There are 3 levels of patrons: the Whale Sharks, Roger Adams, Jay Wilson, Elliot Teeters, BoardSort, and the Copperbuck Recycling. There's the Tiger Sharks, that's the Maryskulls right now, and there's the Hammerheads, Laura Furchess and Ulrich. Thank you all very much. And the last one is a new thing from YouTube. It's called Super Thanks. On any video, you can do a Super Thanks. It's just like a super chat, dropping some money to the old shark, and that will go to the program just like the other sources. As we learned when I went out with the University of Miami to do some shark tagging, there's a lot more that our money supports than just offsetting the cost of tags. There's the Citizen Scientist program. There's the program to help young people get exposure to, the more interesting parts of STEM programs. And then there's the international efforts that the university is a part of. I thank everybody for your contributions, and I'm looking forward to making 2 for 22 a huge success. We'll see you all on the next one.